And you are back with the crew, and we are somewhat rested after our big weekend over in Vegas. Elizabeth and I had a blast, as you can imagine, meeting everybody and everybody meeting me. And I, I, ca- I can't even express how incredible the weekend was. And I know there's probably a million videos out about it, but my biggest takeaway, I said I was going to do a video about 3 takeaways from it. It's not the only thing this video is about. I'm going to do, as you'll see in the thumbnail, as you've already seen the thumbnail, I have a really cool angle about XRP and what I think might happen ultimately in the long run. So stick around for that. My real takeaways from the weekend, just real brief. The people. It's all the people. I don't even care if we're talking about XLM or if we're talking about, technology in general or crypto in general. The people in the room. Elizabeth, as many of you who follow the show know, she's an attorney, so she's met in many circles. She's been part of a large JP Morgan suit. I've been in many conferences and rooms and behind chambers with judges and the rest of it. And her biggest takeaway, I'll share with you, was the amount of intelligent people coming from all walks of life, in every nationality you can imagine, coming together in one room, and every one of them being sharp in their own way. And when she said that to me, I was like, nailed it. Nailed it. That was exactly what I got. Everybody was so comfortable and in the knowing and the knowledge of where this tech is going, where XRP is going, where their finances are going, the way nobody was worried about price or it dropping or how come it hasn't mooned or where's my Lambo. None of that happened this weekend. None of it. I didn't hear one syllable come out about price. So really cool. And that's a tribute to all of us, all of you. Who are out there. And I don't see much of that in my comments at all, ever. So that was, let's see, that's 2 big takeaways. My third one was this. The beautiful part for me as a content provider, I don't know what we call ourselves anymore these days. Seems so lame, that term. We're just in this together. It doesn't matter if you have a channel or not. But like, I would just walk up to people and start shaking people's hands. Well, I wasn't the only one doing that. I wasn't doing that simply to promote my channel. In fact, I never even mentioned my channel, right? When I would introduce, hi, I'm Alan. Hey, where are you from? What are you doing here? How long you been in XRP? How long you been in crypto? How'd you get started? Are you staking? Aren't you? This is fun stuff, isn't it? Where is it going in your opinion? That's what my takeaway was. Everybody was doing that. People weren't walking around promoting their YouTube channel. Everybody, it seemed like everybody who had an XRP YouTube channel was there. At one point, I was sitting around the pool with like 5 different channels. And there was 20 other people there, and it wasn't like the people with the channel were more important than anyone else. It wasn't like the Litecoin convention I went to in that manner. That was like, oh, those guys were in a special area and you couldn't talk to them, and they would get on and off stage. And this other show I went to, they all stayed in a different part of the hotel, and as soon as they were done speaking, they never walked around and shaked anyone's hands or talked to anybody. And it was a Bitcoin convention, sort of, and a Litecoin was one like that. And I thought, you know what, man, I drove all the way to Texas to come to this thing, and you don't have the time of day for people, and then you're like begging for us to watch your YouTube channel or watch your, I was like, I walked away from that show thinking, or going to that convention thinking to myself, how does he okay, all right. Everybody does business differently. Those were my three big takeaways. I know they're kind of all similar, but it was really an amazing show. And Brad, I love you, brother. I never met the man before. I only briefly got to meet him. He was such a busy man. He was so kind about talking positively about this show and how much he enjoyed the show and the content and the fresh perspective that I give the space. Wow. Like, coming from him, I was like, wow. And then, I got to meet, everybody. Dave and his wife. My wife and Dave sat there and talked for, gosh, I don't know, 30 minutes where he and I could talk. And it's so amazing that you guys compare me with him. That's an honor. That's truly an honor. And I took it as that when about a year ago, you guys compared me to his channel, and I didn't really know the man or his channel, and it was fun. I got to introduce him to Zach, and he and Zach hit it off, and there's a real Christian following, huge. Doesn't matter what your denomination or what your religious beliefs were in that room. It didn't matter at all. But those two have a real tight bonding now that it seemed like it was going to last for a lifetime to me. But so let's get on to what the channel's about, this show's about, because I've been working on an angle. I have so much content that I want to get out, guys. I know it's been sparse lately, but I'm going to do more shows. That's another takeaway. How about number 4 takeaway? The appreciation that I received from not a few people, everybody that was there. Do you know what it's like to be appreciated by 400 people? Do you know that it's like a level of humility that like is one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced in my lifetime? I've had an amazing life. I've done some incredible things in my life. And I can honestly tell you, the single greatest thing that I've ever done thus far in my life is this channel. Not just because of that weekend, because of the comments and the people and everybody in this channel, in this network, in this group, in this space, and where we're headed, and the way we think about it, and the way we think, we're not going to buy a Lambo, we're going to buy a farm and help people, or we're going to we're going to help a charity or start a food bank. And that's something I'm working on right now. And you guys are all doing the same thing. Incredible space that we live in. Let's get to the show. I lost my train of thought right there. Sorry, guys. I could go on about you guys and us forever, because we are making a difference, and the world's going to be a better place because of the technology in which you and I share the belief and understanding of and where it's headed. Okay. I have this cool angle. I haven't heard anyone else talk about it. I heard a guy in the elevator in Las Vegas. He was talking about this thing that we all know about. So let's just go there. Wayne, by the pool. Thanks, brother. Wayne hung out with me for a few hours, had some lunch with me. Wayne's going to start a show too. Good luck to you, Wayne. We'll support you as best we can. This angle goes like this. I don't want to get into Roe v. Wade. Okay? Not even interested. One of the things that I think Roe v. Wade is all about, you have to see the big picture, okay, is the government for the first time took a stance on this will be implemented in all 50 states, this ruling by the Supreme Court. You all must live by this decision that they have made, okay? When you wrap your head around that, how important that was, it was strategic in a political sense, in the fact that it was a hot button that split America in half as to Roe v. Wade on the treatment of unborn children. I'm going to leave it there. It split America in half, and they knew it would. So everybody had become confused, and I'm not saying that's not an important issue, and clearly it is with everybody on a personal level. And I happen to believe there's 8 billion different opinions as to what's right or wrong. Now, the clear thing that they pulled over our heads, in my opinion, was they decided that they were going to rule and make all 50 states go with one ruling. It was revolutionary. It fought our Constitution for the first time in that manner. You can correct me down below, but the bottom line is that decision was unconstitutional, not about the child portion of it, the fact that they could implement the law nationwide. That's what was unconstitutional. Well, if you know anything about the pendulum of political world in which we live in, it goes really liberal, really conservative. And we're clearly in this liberal because liberals 20 years ago didn't believe in big business or war. But that's kind of really what their focus is. Well, what happens to conservatives? They get into big business and war. And then they lose faith in it. Everybody loses faith and it starts to swing back the other way. Well, you know that either party or either group from the outside, because I'm not a political person, when the pendulum swings so far to that direction and they end up being a leading advocate for the industrial mechanism, okay, the military industrial complex on both parties, you're like, okay, now we're reaching the point where the Liberal Party has gone too far. They've pushed too far their own direction. And they will be starting to get called out, and the pendulum is now swinging the other direction. It's just a political observation. I'm not trying to be political with that statement in any way at all. Now, if you're still with me, this is the beautiful part about XRP. In particular, XRP. In particular, Ripple. Okay. If you understand the concept that I've painted the picture so far, I want you to wrap your heads around the fact that agencies and their nationwide ruling is unconstitutional. Let me repeat. The FDA, okay, or the SEC, okay, or the Environmental Protection Agency, or HUD, or whatever agency that you would like to put under the term agency, okay, virtually all of them are being looked at. These are upcoming cases in which they will take the EPA's rights away from them. Why? I'm not saying they're going to rule that way. That slipped. I shouldn't have said that. What I'm trying to say is they are, the Supreme Court going forward, because of the ruling with Roe v. Wade, they're going to be looking at, okay, EPA, all right, FDA, SEC, as to their constitutionality. Are they even constitutional? My opinion, no, they're not. And even if they are, okay, they can be contested. So let's go down the road a year, maybe 2, okay? And you could say, well, that's such a massive agency, there's no way that they would overturn it. Well, Roe v. Wade was pretty hot button. That happened. So where I'm going with this is, SEC may rule negatively. I don't think they will, but I don't know, okay? And that's my wife's forte, okay? I don't know what they're going to do. I know that according to Brad, Mr. Garlinghouse, to you people, to all of us, will fight this. I saw it in his eyes personally. I saw him personally say those words. He seems to be clearly a man of his word. He seems to have the financial ability, obviously, and he's going to fight this as long as he has to. As we talked about at the convention, and many of you have talked about this before, I think if the SEC loses this case, they're probably going to try and fight it, but I think they have bigger fish to fry, believe it or not, and I think they're going to try and go after other tokens. And they may let this one slide because, let's face facts, XRP is owned by a lot of people, not just you and I. A lot of people see the success and the future of success of XRP and its use case going forward. And all around the world, they can't fight the rest of the world, and they kind of know it. So in my opinion, if they lose up front, okay, or if, like Elizabeth, my wife, thinks, they may go to trial with this thing, unfortunately. And if that were the case, they could lose it in trial. I think they'd lose in a trial. I think 12 jurors would probably side with us. I'm, who knows with a jury trial. But I think, let me get back to the point of where I'm going with this whole video. You've already got the point. If they were to lose, it is possible that every ruling that the SEC has ever ruled upon could be overturned. Think about that, guys. Think about how significant that is. That's a big deal. It doesn't matter what the SEC ruled. It doesn't matter what their ruling is. They were unconstitutional in their complete agency or their assembly before the people. Everything they ruled upon is no longer constitutional. Remember, that's the Supreme Court that's in power at this point, and they seem to be wanting to go back to being constitutionalists. And that seems to be where we're headed, and the pendulum swinging that way to more conservative anyway, because it has gone very far to the left. In other words, your progressives have been in control for so long. Now, let me explain who the progressives are if you don't quite understand that. The WEF, as we've talked about before, that's a group, that's a family, that's supported by a group of people in business. You know basically who they are. The WEF is not my favorite team, clearly. I'm more in the favor of, there's another version, spin-off of that team. And that team is more along the lines of, I'll go with Mr. Diamond and I'll go with Mr. Solomon. If you know who I'm talking about there, the CEOs of Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan are more Federal Reserve backed individuals, okay? That I really believe, and I'm not alone with this, there are many shows now coming out with this. This has been a theory of mine for years. This is not something I just came up with, that the Federal Reserve is actually on a different team than the Western Europe group or the City of London angle. Those people believe more in the way of the WEF, and they are they are the power behind the WEF. And there are fundamental American groups that have seen the deterioration of the American spirit and corporate well-being for Americans leave and go outside the world because this new world order is run by the WEF, which is basically run out of places in Europe and not in the best interest of Americans and hardworking Americans and people that want to be of sovereignty in America and would like their country to thrive. Now, do I have evidence of all of that? No, but I will tell you, I've been talking to a lot of people for a very long time, and there's a lot that all of that makes sense to this man. Now, so in a bottom line angle of this entire video is, You might lose the short term. You probably in the long term, and I'm talking 5 to 10 years, could potentially be overturned. And basically all the things that were illegally drawn as law could be overturned in the future. And anyone that says, oh, well, they will never do that, just look back at Roe v. Wade, and that already happened. Okay? In this, what I'm going to call very WEF or left run current administration, in my opinion, they are anyway. I don't follow them. I don't know a lot about them. So, don't hold me out on that. But I've already made this video kind of long, and I sort of talked a lot about beat around the bush. My bottom line is, I think if you're excited about the future of constitutionality, I think you have a bright future. I think it's going to be very obvious to the rest of the world that America, through its banking and its lack of its currency strength, that it's going to diminish in the eyes of business around the world. And I've talked about that in many videos. And that currently is happening now. And not only is it happening now, people are witnessing it, and it's seeing it even in lesser countries, not the top 7, we'll say, like the top 20 or 50 countries are going, wow, there's some weakness there where it's never been that way before. Now we can associate ourselves with maybe these other people, BRICS nations, that we can do business with without the strong arm of the US, going after us in the way they have in the past. All of that to say, that does not mean this country is circling the toilet bowl and headed for the drain. That is not what I believe to be true. I believe that the strength of the people of this country are going to ask and demand for better leadership than what they've received in the last, I'm going to call it 20 years, not 2 or 3 years of current administration. Having said all that, I know many of you are with me on that page, but I know many of you have different beliefs about that, and I understand that. But we have finally reached a point where it's time for it to occur, and that is the falling of the banks. They've designed this a long time ago. We pretty much know all that sound money, and it's all happening as we speak, and it's worked its way to the Supreme Court, and those decisions are going to be overturned because those progressives that have been in charge for, I'm going to call it 50 years, are losing, and the WEF are being exposed in many different ways. So I want you guys to stay strong and hope for the best, because I know we do have a bright future, and crypto and better government, better legislation, and better. I keep hearing about the new Kennedy guy. I don't know anything about him. I know he's a Democrat, and I know that he's against the war, and I love that. I don't know anything other than that about him. But I know there's a lot of people that comment on my last video about that when I mentioned it. So guys, with that, next year, do your best to try and make the show. It was amazing. I swear my voice went gone. It was history. Because I shook every hand and met everybody. I went to dinner with as many people as I could, and lunch, and hung out, and I met all of you. And I can't wait for the day that this bull market comes back and we crush it, and we do our cruise ship, and we all get to hang out together. I promise you, it's going to be a blast. With that, I am out. Since I'm a captain and I can actually bless you, well, when I'm out at sea, with 3 wishes. Wish wisely. Put down below your 3 wishes. Love you.